Hello, this is Gene. I'm doing a follow-up to the video I talked about Meyer last week, or earlier this week. Now, I put that video on private because I was kind of emotional when it happened. Although I think that the video itself is 100% accurate on how I felt and how I still feel today, as we know more and more about what's going on in the case against Zach Smith and Meyer, because he's the coach of Ohio State, one of the biggest universities in the United States, and makes a lot of money that the taxpayers have to pay for. But regardless, I think that I'm going to go down a road that a lot of people don't want to go down, and I don't think that people that watch me somewhat will understand where I'm going. I think that they'll understand 100%. Excuse me, good Lord. These are like the taboos in our society that we don't want to talk about. And we can talk about female nature and male nature and all that type of thing. But I think that stuff like this has to be said, and I'm willing to take the bullet for it. Obviously, I don't have a huge following on YouTube, but I'm sure that some people might see this and call me many different things. I already was called a couple things from my original video, saying I'm discussing human and all that stuff. So what we know at this point is Meyer knew about the event in 2015. He did the stuff by what he's supposed to do under the protocol. The issue is really, at this point, to me, Meyer should never be fired. He did everything he was supposed to do. I don't understand why he has to be responsible for everybody when it comes to private business, when it comes to your personal life at home. I think that it's pretty clear that the entire team knew that that marriage was volatile. But so much, they knew so much that it was volatile, but they never really thought that there was any threat to the woman in this scenario, that this was a very volatile situation that happens a lot. And I think people just, when they go online and they just immediately say that the guy is the bad person and that the women have no responsibility in this at all, that you never can touch a woman and no reason ever. And there are so many guys out there that do this. And when I say guys, I mean the males. They believe this, that you can never put a hand on a woman, regardless. It's like we have to treat them like they're kids. I mean, normally you're not going to hit your kid, right? But sometimes you might have to smack him in the butt if he keeps going and putting shit into the like-it socket. You know, you have to give him that that negative reinforcement to say not to do it again. Now, people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear the idea that you have to control your woman, because that seems so misogynistic and stuff. But there are some women that need to be controlled, and a lot of times these women they marry guys that are very weak, and they just dominate the guy, and they just go through their lives being the dominant person in the relationship, very alpha, whatever. But when they marry somebody who's not going to take it, then you see these type of it's just like if a guy who's an alpha who doesn't listen and comes home, and if you don't have your dinner on the table, he's gonna do something to you or beat the shit out of you or something like that. Women have that too. They have their own part of it, and people just continually look at women like they don't do things physical, and they say, well, no, they're women and they're weaker than we are. Oh, really? That's not what we've been told the last 30 or 40 years, that women are so empowered that they're just as strong as men. I mean, everybody knows this is a bunch of fucking bullshit, and they know that there's two genders, but still people like to talk about this. Say, well, women can do as much as men do when it comes physically. Now, there has been a lot of change when it came to the physical sides of our country, let's say. Women have got so much huger now, mostly because they're fat. Guys are too. I mean, the women today are actually bigger than the guys 30 or 40 years ago from the weight size. They're just huge. And when they hit you, they could actually hurt you. Now, anyway, I want to go back and talk about this a little bit. Zach Smith came out and did a couple videos or interviews. And I'm going to say he didn't look great, especially on ESPN. He didn't look very great. But people in the comments below were talking about, look at his eyes, how they're going shady, going right to right and all that stuff. And he can't look at the reporter and go face to face or look him in the eyes and say, see, I didn't do this. And they think he's lying. I saw things a little different because, Jesus, I don't know why, I'm a guy, okay? And a guy who couldn't control his wife had to deal with this all the time. I'm sure every day as it's at work, several times during the year, I'm sure that he had to deal with an emergency at home, that he was being pulled away from his workplace and dealing with a volatile, emotional woman at home. And it's not a good thing. And so what I see, now every time he looked at the reporter's lies, he would go right back when he was talking about factual issues, talking that Urban should not be fired, and I told him this on 2015. And when you look, every those he looked, but when he's talking about what happened between his wife and him, he does this sit with his eyes. And people want to say he's lying there because he didn't actually hit her. Now, clearly this man is not that smart when it comes to being nuanced when he's talking about hitting and whatever. So he says he believes in his mind, and I think that he's right. Okay, I don't know. No one knows what happens, but we do know this. What everybody was saying about 2015, the cops came out there, they looked at the situation, even though this woman had these bruises on her hands, that he was never arrested for it. Now, it's possible that the cops in Columbus are all behind the team, and they'll lose their careers just to defend Ohio State's football team. Maybe that's all true. Maybe that happens sometimes. I don't know. But I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to tell you what happens in these type of scenarios where guys have to defend themselves. And he talks about this in his interview about this. But when you're talking to another guy, especially another guy, when you get a girl, but you're talking to a guy, and he's saying, "What but she's got these things on her hands." He's like, "Well, I had to restrain her, and I had to get her out of the way so I can get through the door because she wouldn't let me go." Now, if it was the other way around, and a guy was keeping a woman in a room, it'd be considered what's the word? It's not kidnapping or something like that. And there's a video I did, and it's on and I'll put it below. This happened to me. Girl was half my size, and she locked the door, said I wasn't going to leave, that if I got up and tried to leave, she called the cops saying that I was raping her and shit. So I was sitting there to the point I could get her trust, and then eventually I got to leave like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I reported this, and then I got laughed at. No. So my experience when it comes to toxic relationships with alpha people or emotional women, that this happens all the time. And he talks about this, and he's very forceful when he talks about this. Everything he talked about Urban, very forceful, looking at the reporter. When he's talking about things that should be dealt with in-house, personalized, she's very forceful when he's talking about this. But when he's talked about what happened to the incidents, he's shameful of his part in the events. Again, I don't know what he did. Maybe this guy's a dick, but there is no proof that he ever hit her. And people can't. Apparently, you can't understand that there's a difference to hitting somebody an offensive type of strike that is an offensive, aggressive type of thing, or taking somebody's hands or arms when they're coming at you, flailing at you, and you try to control them, and they're continually going like that. And you can see what I've seen online is exactly where a guy would get the girl from hitting him. Now, he talked, and it was just, nobody really cares about this. This one was clearly, now this again, is his point of view. But he was talking about, he was about sleeping. I guess he was in between sleep and not sleeping. And she was going to come over there with a tobacco can, and it was open. And there was the actual metal part was still attached to it. Now, I remember that when I used to snuff, I don't know what the word is anymore. I used to get tobacco underneath it, I can't snuff it, I don't know. And it would be like that. You had to open it up. Now it's changed over the years, but you could do that, and it would be like that. It's like opening up a thing of pork and beans, and that it could hurt you if you get. And so she was going to put this over him, and he woke up. He was in between sweep, and he tried to stop her from doing it, so by doing it, it ended up hitting her hand. So that now becomes an aggressive thing, because we're supposed to allow a woman to just do this to us. Now, I don't know if that's what happened. That's what he said. He was pretty clear what happened with that. He said this happened to me. And he was shameful because it happened, and you can see that in his eyes. That, why is she doing this to me? And he said that I'm a bad person, so this is why. And this is what happens when somebody's who's been a victim. I don't want to say he's a victim, because you can't say that here, because men are never victims, no matter what. Okay, but when it comes to that he was clearly in a toxic relationship, that she was doing stuff like this. She was using different types of things to either push his buttons or do things that he couldn't defend against. The thing that I really got from his interview is that he was talking about when he tried to leave a situation and she wouldn't let him, or they come at you. There's a text, and everybody's going to point to this text, and I'm going to ask you simply this, because I saw it happen. I saw exactly what he is being accused of in that text, because we don't know exactly before she texts that text or after. We don't know this is a scenario that was going on at that time. But I saw a guy, his wife came at him. She had a knife in one hand, and she came at him like that she was going to come and get him. So instead of him trying to grab his arm, that arm with the thing, he went and got her actual throat and stopped her from getting near him. And then he got the thing out of her hand, and then grabbed her other hands. But at the same time he's doing this, he's dealing with the other side, but he had to try to stop this as well. And before I could get there and settle it, because I was about 15, 20 yards away from it, it was like you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, and all of a sudden she came out of nowhere. And who knows why? I mean, is that his fault that this happened? But the point I want to get across here, nobody knows. You can get on Twitter, and you can go on Facebook, and you can go on YouTube and reply to this in your comments and saying he's a liar and he's a piece of shit and women should never be touched. Can men ever defend themselves when women do this? Are we just supposed to take it? And why is that? Is this what I've been saying this forever on this channel, is that we look at women in this society as retarded children, and I think that that's bad to say the word retarded in this situation. It's like we don't want to hit women, or we don't want to hit children. We can't do anything to women. If we do, no matter what happens, if there's at the end of the day there's proof of bruising or something like that, it's going to be the male's fault regardless. We are responsible for it in any of these type of situations, and we have to make sure that nothing happens. And if anything happens, we're the ones that are going to be taken off to jail. We have to be responsible for all of it. Even though the women are supposed to be adults, supposed to have some sort of ability to know what's right and wrong, they are not looking at we have to look at them on a different level, because I don't know why. And people continually do this stuff. They think that guys that should just be able to walk away. They don't understand that most women, and about half of all domestic violence are perpetrated by the woman. They just are, and they use weapons more than men do. Now, yes, because we're bigger, we end up maybe cause more violence to them, and we end up killing them more than they kill us. But the idea that women are they have no responsibility, and the society does not give them any responsibility. When a woman is off a rocker, emotional, she's coming at you, either you have the ability to try to get out there. If you can't get out there, what are you supposed to do? Allow her to come up to you and just beat the shit out of you until they can't do it anymore, and then we're supposed to walk away from it. I think it's pretty clear what's happened here, that he did things that really impacted her. She got emotional. Maybe what he was doing was really bad, but I don't think it probably deserved her coming at him, trying to hit him. But so let's say he's responsible for that, but she's never responsible for what she just did. Nobody even talked about that. It's like, well, he did this to me, the whole thing with the tobacco. It's like, it's okay. The society will care. They don't give a shit, because we as guys have to control the situation no matter what. So this is where I'm going to get to the point. So what do you exactly want us to do? Because if I say I want to try to control my woman, if my wife is an emotional person, and she might do things like this, and she comes at me, so I have to kind of control her and restrain her, or should I just allow her to continue to hit me? The idea that you think that this doesn't happen, and it happens quite a bit in our society, and then it is bastardized in the media and everything else in the society. It says it's okay to say this, to do this to men, because they are taught from early days that nobody can touch them. And you'll see this all the time, like, you can't hit me, I'm a woman. You can't hit me, I'm a woman. And it's like fed in their mind that they can come right up to a guy and say whatever they want to say, and don't worry about any repercussion, because 99.9% of the time, nothing's going to happen to them. But when you're talking about dealing with a toxic relationship and you have kids and maybe you're on drinking too much alcohol, and this happens over and over again, and eventually he grabs her so he could stop from getting hit, and he moves out of the way, and then he walks out of the place, he goes away, the cops came, she says, I've been abused. The idea, do you think that this doesn't happen? It happens all the damn time. And there is a difference between female nature and male nature. A lot of guys, when they're being confronted by their wives or something like that, they want to go off to their cave. This is something part of us that we do. If it's something that we're actually have to defend our kids and we're going to die for, we'll always stay there. We'll fight it. But it's something like that where you don't want to do anything because, you know, she's your wife, your girlfriend. You don't want to get to a point where you might actually end up hitting her because you're trying to defend yourself, or if you get so upset because you said something stupid, you go back into your cave. What women do is they don't walk away. They follow you into your cave. Then you get to the point where you can't get out. You're like not a wounded person, but you kind of are, like a wounded animal. So you're back in your cave, and there's no way to get out. Now, some guys go too far, beat the shit out of their wives, and there's no excuse for that. But when they're just in your face, and they won't let you get out of the room, and they won't let you just get out of there, and you say, get out of my way, and they won't do it, and you pick them up and pull them out of the way, and because you have to do this, because women are not 80 pounds, you have to pill them up, and he's a stocky dude, and I don't know, she's not that big of a small girl, but anyway, he pulls her out of the way, and you can see where the fucking the marks are. She clearly was after him, and he's holding her and trying to get him out of the way, and they were red. Like, if I sat there and did it right now to this, she could have done that, and you don't even see it there. It's just all one big red thing. So he's holding her like that. Get me out of here, so I can get out. It's not like he went up there and started hitting her and all over the place, and it's all over her face and stuff. It's right here in her hand, exactly where you move somebody to get out of your way. Again, though, I don't know. Nobody knows. But I'm just saying the idea that everybody, no matter what, especially men, it's like they get in these comments, and I think they're waiting for women to come and say, you're just a good man, that you would never do that to me, that girls are never can be touched because we're so far above you, even though the society says you're oppressed. It's just, it makes no sense to me. Again, we don't know, but I know this. Taking the Zach Smith and his wife, I think that there's more there. I think this clearly she did this thing to get him in trouble. But she wants to make sure that she gets her money no matter what, and that's why she did what she did. And then she did the whole thing with charging him with trespassing when they were supposed to pick up or drop off the kids. And I mean, this happens all the time when people are going with divorces and they have joint custody. And I talked about this in the video. So since I'm not, I didn't link it below, or it's in private right now. Just one little thing here. Women do this all the time when they're going through divorce procedures. They use their kids as a bargaining chip, and they do this stuff where you beat me, you meet me here where I get the kids, and then if you don't go to the right place, or if you go to the right place and she's not there where it's not supposed to be, and if it's in the order that you can't be there, then they say that you're trespassing, and they do this so they can get some sort of leverage into the divorce proceeding. And when she found out that he was being fired for this event, then she went on to public so she can get the sympathy on her side, and then she's probably going to try to sue the Ohio State to get money out of it. And this is what this is. She knew that her gravy train was not going to happen anymore. Obviously, I don't know the guy. I don't know if he's a good father or not. I mean, he said that she's a good mother, but I think he was very honest when it came to the fact that their relationship was toxic. And I think that people need to take take a step back when they're looking at stuff like this and say, if the women, the other coaches' wives, if they really thought that she was in danger, they would have never allowed this continue to go on. I think that they knew exactly the type of woman she was, that she was a very emotional type of woman that he had to deal with, but he wanted to stay together with them, and they had problems, but there was no way they would allow this continue to go on. And there's no way that if they thought, the men, the coaches thought that he was a threat to her, that this would have happened. This is something that it's one of those things, because he said it's my personal life and nobody should be involved with it. Yeah, I agree. I don't want the state need to come in there unless you did something wrong. But personally, for me, I don't see anything there. I don't. I think that she is a very hard woman to deal with. I think that she's a girl that he couldn't control, let's say, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of that's psychological. I think from the fact once they had the baby, or when the baby was being formed, I think that she lost that she wasn't as important to him anymore. He had football and had her. Then they had their first baby, and she started to get further away from him for his importance to her, or for him. And I think that she didn't like that, and there are women like that, and they want to be more. They go somewhere else to get the attention. And if you can't go around just screwing around on your husband, and apparently he did this as well. Whatever. That they do this stuff. They call the cops to get attention, to get. And again, there are times that it escalated, and people get killed from it. Okay, I know this. Okay, I'm not saying, again, I don't know anything, but what I do know is the people online, they don't know what's true and what's not true, and that whole part, that's a tragedy for their family. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, nobody's dead. It's bad for the kids, but Urban Meyer should not lose his job. And as much as I didn't like the guy at Florida, and I think that he had a culture of stupidity there at Florida, this is not his fault. And we need to stop saying that men have to be responsible for everything that women do. This is what this is. This is like every man has to be responsible for other men, so that men never touch a man, never touches a woman, can't do anything like that, because women never lie when it comes to this. When they lie all the time, normally for attention and for money. It was clear to me when it first came out, this is what this is for, and nothing has changed since then. Okay, whether or not I actually will post this or not, I don't know, but please let me know below. If you think that I'm off base, fine, just be respectful in the comments. You can say that I'm off. Again, I'm not defending either one of them. I'm saying that there's more here, and in a lot of ways, I think that he's right. It's a private matter. When the cops come, it doesn't become that way, and there's nothing that's going to court right now that talks about any of the domestic violence. Okay, he has not been charged of any of that. The next thing that they're going to go into court about is the fact he was charged with trespassing, even though his court documents said that he could be exactly where he was to pick up his kids or drop off his kids, and she did this thing so that he can get in trouble for it. Again, this is something that happens all the time, and both genders are just as bad when it comes to this, but the society looks at as always being the man's fault. And in the back of our mind, we think that if you can't control your woman and she does stuff like this, it's still your fault. So whatever. He control his woman. That's why it looks exactly. I mean, I would have looked the same way. Why couldn't I control her? Why does she act like this? I would be shameful for it. And just one little thing, this idea about you looking at the reporter eye to eye and always look at him, that those people always tell a lie. I can count to hundreds, thousands of times where guys did this shit, and he's not telling. He's telling the truth. He's got to be. I can. There's a president that did this to hundreds of thousands, or to hundreds of millions of us 25 years ago, saying he did not have sex with that woman, right in the camera, like he was looking at us, and he lied to us. So just because somebody looks at you and he doesn't waver in his eyes, doesn't necessarily mean he's telling the truth. So we need to get past that. Anyway, you guys, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.